Well, we love featuring artists you should know about. Today, we're heading to Australia to chat with singer-songwriter Allie Jean. Allie's been playing music her whole life. She went to a prestigious arts academy at the age of 15. She's been performing at venues and festivals all over Victoria. She spent 2020 and 2021 writing and demoing music, and now it's been trickling out. To date, she's got 4 singles. Her latest, Burn Your Big House Down, just came out last week. We're excited to have Allie Jean on the show. First, Allie, thanks so much for coming on.
Thanks so much, Jeff. I'm so excited to be here with you and your listeners.
Well, man, you grew up in some small towns. I'm in a small town of like 4,000 people. You grew up in a town of like 400 at one time.
Yeah, look, it was basically skeleton. It was basically just the people who happened to live there and their kids, and we formed this weird little group, and that was the town. But it's pretty cool to have experiences like that, I reckon.
Yeah, well, then you lived with your grandparents on a 1,200-acre farm. Were they your influence? Who got you going in music?
Oh, I think like a lot of people, I just can't imagine a time when I wasn't around music. Like my dad, he was a self-taught guitarist, and he used to come in and sing songs to my brother and I at bedtime, and music was always playing in the house, and it was just always around. I don't think I could name one person or one moment in time because it feels like it was just always part of my life.
Yeah, well, and you were playing multiple instruments, guitar, piano, fiddle. What came first?
Oh, what came first? Look, singing probably came before all of them because you don't have to be coordinated and you can have little fingers to sing. So, look, singing was the start, and then I think probably piano was the next one after that, which is great because you get this visual representation of what music looks like and how it works. So, piano would have been first, I think. Yeah,
well then, at 15... you go to a prestigious Victorian College of Arts secondary school. I mean, you moved to Melbourne. I mean, was this a culture shock?
Oh, massively so. And I kept saying to myself, if I don't like it after a year, I'll go home. If I don't like it, I'll go home. So that's sort of what got me through that first year because, it's rough. You go from living at home and knowing the kids you go to school with and knowing, I had my parents and my grandparents up there and my brother, and then you go to this big city and you're with all these kids who are really, really good at what they do, and it's all kind of a bit competitive and it's very, very different. So I learnt masses and I wouldn't change it for the world, but it was definitely a shock for those first couple of years for sure.
Yeah, well, and I mean, you knew how to play an instrument, so you focused on what, singing and songwriting?
Yeah. So singing was my main thing. That's what I got into the College of Arts for, and that's what I did for those next couple of years. So I did everything else on the side, but in terms of why they thought I was there, it was for singing.
Yeah. Well, and this was like, because when did you get done with the school?
Well, it was the school, so I was in high school and then went on to uni or college, I suppose you might call it over there. So I was probably there for a total of 6 years, all up, high school for 2 and then uni for the rest.
Yeah, because in 2016, like this Jillian Welch encouraged you to continue pursuing country music and songwriting. So what was going on in your life? I mean, was there ups and downs?
Yeah, definitely. And I think for everyone, you get to a point where you think, is this worth it? And all the things that make this difficult and, the vulnerability that it takes to make anything that's sort of authentic and real, is it worth pursuing? And then Jillian Welch came to Australia and I had the great fortune to meet her through the friend of a friend. And she said, look, if it's what you want to do, then you got to do it and you'll never be happy if you don't. And I think that's what I needed at that point in time. So it took me a while to work out what I wanted to do and how I wanted to do it. But that was definitely a turning point for me.
Yeah, because you have really, I think you've struggled trying to find your sound or what you wanted to do. Because, you had an album done or songs written and you scrapped everything.
Yeah, so we had 10 songs written, and then I listened to it and I thought, no, I don't like half of these. So we ditched, I think, 6 songs on the album and wrote another 6, and that took about another year. But I'm a big believer that if you're going to put your art out there and you're going to put yourself out there, it's got to be something that's authentic to you. And there's such a risk in doing anything where you can't honestly stand up and say, that's me. And I couldn't do it with those songs, and so they weren't good enough. And I would rather work for years to get something that gets there than I would put my name and put my identity to something that I don't believe in.
Yeah, because you grew up listening to like traditional country, but you were trying to find a more contemporary sound.
Well, that's the thing. I think I've always listened to contemporary country, traditional country, but I've also listened to things like grunge and, Nirvana and hard rock and southern rock. And I think when, you play Burn Your Big House Down, for your listeners in a couple of minutes, they'll hear there's all these influences that are coming together on that track. And I think, it took me ages to find because I couldn't find a single genre that was me. I had to sort of combine and mix and match to get to a sound and get to a place that I was happy with.
Yeah, it's rough. A lot of people struggle finding your sound, and you did the same thing. I mean, it's crazy that you were listening to grunge music.
Oh, I don't know. I think grunge music's great. It's so honest, and it's like the best. To me, and I know this might sound like a weird analogy, but to me, grunge is kind of like a combination of punk and country because it's got the rawness of punk and the attitude, but it has the storytelling of country and it has the narrative and has that ability to grab you by whatever you're feeling and twist you around. And so it might seem like a long reach for some, but I like to think there's a pretty natural alignment there between grunge and country. I just don't think anyone's figured it out yet.
I've never thought of that. You're totally right, Allie. I get that. I mean, I'm old. I grew up in the grunge era. So, but yeah, I see that. And emotion. I mean, grunge has a lot of emotion in the music.
Yeah, and attitude and telling things like they are. And I think you look at the roots of country music and that's what you see. It came from a place of rebellion and narrative and storytelling and needing to tell people's stories in a way that was real. And I think that's exactly what grunge was trying to do, in the 90s and had such a massive impact on everything that's come after it. So some people might say it's a strange combo. I think there's a lot of synergy there.
Yeah, no, for sure. How did you meet producer and golden guitar winner Matt Fell?
Yeah, so we were looking for a producer at that point in time and we sent it out to a few people and we heard back from Matt really quickly and we just sent him at that point phone demos. So just things recorded with an acoustic guitar and not unmiked vocals, just recorded on an iPhone. And he said, this is awesome. Let's work together. And to hear back from someone like that, it just felt like a door was opening that was meant to be. And it just rolled from there. So we were so lucky that he was interested and went on to produce the album.
Yeah, it's crazy. Go and check her out. She's at alliejean.com.au because she's in Australia. She's on Facebook, Instagram, X, Spotify. Her brand new single, Burn Your Big House Down, is out now. Well, the album, The Drink is for Hard Times, which I love that title, is done. I mean, this is the fourth single. How hard has it been sitting on this album?
Oh, massively hard, but I've been sitting on it for about 2 years now, so I'm kind of used to it. But I also think, you can't, I'm building an audience, right? And you've got to give people time to hear and absorb and decide if it's for them and then listen to the next thing and decide if that's for them. And so I'm a big believer that it takes so long to write and produce and be happy with music that there's no point rushing the release because you've worked that hard to get there. So it's been a slow burn, but I'm really comfortable with the pace that we're setting. And, we've got a couple more singles to go and then we'll think about the album launch. And I'm so excited to have it out there. But I also, want to give our listeners and give people a chance and our growing audience a chance to absorb the songs one at a time. So look, they say patience is a virtue. I don't have a lot of it personally, but I'm trying really hard to pace myself with this one.
Yeah, I mean, that's got to be tough. Was that the plan? I mean, let's do the album and then release singles?
Yeah, that was always the plan. And the writing took a really long period of time, but the production was actually pretty quick. So we recorded and produced it, I think, within a 6-month period, going up and down from Matt's in Tasmania and then getting William Bowden, who's he did the mastering for us, getting him involved. So that was relatively quick. And then we had this great album and we thought, okay, so how are we going to release it? And we got some really good advice, which was, you can't afford to rush this. There's no point dropping an album and then trying to get people to listen to singles. And as a new artist, you need to take your audience on that journey with you. So that was always going to be the plan. And then the rest of it's just been waiting for the timing to play out, I think.
Yeah. And it's a singles world.
Totally.
You're on the right path. You don't want to be a brand new artist and drop an album and 1, nobody hears it. And 2, you just threw away 5 years of your life because
absolutely
you gave it all to them at one time. I mean, Gasoline on Fire was your first single. I love this song. Do you write the music, Allie?
Yeah, I do. So I'm really, really fortunate. So I wrote every song that's on the album. I very often work with a co-writer who's a very, very talented writer and guitarist. And so he is involved a lot on the album as well. But yeah, my voice and my writing's on every track in there.
Yeah, because I love the guitar on Gasoline on Fire. It's great.
Pretty awesome. I can't take any credit for that. So there's a very talented, all the musicians who recorded with us are amazing, and the guitarist who played on that is pretty phenomenal. So he's also the co-writer that I work with as well. So he came up with a riff and he recorded it, and it's pretty cool.
Who is doing your cover art? Because this is amazing.
Oh, there's a whole lot of different people who've been doing this. So the cover art of each of the singles is different. Gasoline on Fire is a very good friend of ours, actually in the US, who is a graphic designer, and she said to us, "What do you want? What do you want it to look like?" And so we said, like, this is the image we've got in our heads, and she said, "Sure, I'll make it happen." But each one of those covers has been done by someone different, and we've sort of had a concept or an idea. And, you know, we've been lucky to have friends or friends of friends who've popped up and said, "Hey, I can do this," or someone said, "You should check out this artist, they're really good." And so it's kind of this eclectic collection, but we hope that each cover sort of speaks to the song and is quite unique in that way.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. I mean, every one of your cover arts is great. I mean, it's pretty impressive. But Pretty on the Outside was your last single. Tell us the inspiration of this song.
Oh, look, I think this is one of my favourite tracks on the album, and interestingly, it's the track that I wrote kind of right at the end of the first album, and once I wrote this song, it made me realise half of what I'd written before wasn't good enough. So this song was kind of a turning point. But I think it's one of those tracks that everyone can relate to, because it's about things that look shiny, they look like a good idea at the time, and then you realise pretty quickly that it's all superficial. And I don't know anyone who had made one of those decisions or had one of those moments in their life. So it's a bit of a song for everyone, this song.
Yeah, it's a great tune. You're living in Melbourne, so you're in the city. I saw where you said in an interview how you like to spend your downtime hanging out with your husband and your dog. What kind of dog do you have?
I have a blue heeler, so I don't know
if
you know Australian cattle dogs, but yeah, I have a bluey. So she is 2 now. She is gorgeous. She is smarter than anyone and anything that I know. She's definitely smarter than my husband and I. She runs the household, and she's really just like having a third person, to be honest, but she's pretty cool.
That's cool. We had a blue heeler when I was a kid. It was a great dog.
It's funny how often you speak to people who say, "Oh, we have one of these when we're kids and they're so great." So I think they're one of those dogs where once you have them, it's very hard to look at other dogs in the same way. My husband owned them when he was a kid, but Lila, our pup, she's my first, and I can't see myself getting anything other than a bluey in the future. They're pretty hard to get past.
Yeah. What does your husband think of all this? Is he a musician?
Yeah, he is. So when I talk about my very talented co-writer, that's my husband.
Oh, wow.
So I am very lucky to live and work with someone who's exceptionally talented, and because of the nature of our relationship, the honesty of the dialogue when we're creating music is really something else. So yeah, he's very talented, far more than I am, and yeah, very lucky to be his partner in life and music, I think.
That's crazy. Were you guys together? Did you meet because of music? How did it happen?
No. We'd been together for about, longer than I'd like to admit now. Maybe 6 or 7 years. And then the idea of sort of music came up and doing something together. And he'd been in other bands and done a lot of touring and that sort of stuff. And we sort of thought, do we actually want to do this? Do we want to combine our lives in this way? And then we thought, well, you can't live with the regret, so you got to give it a go. And from that, the music was really born. So, yeah, we've been together for a long time before we started working together musically.
Yeah, I even saw you said if I could do a duet, it'd be with Tyler Childers or Kurt Cobain. I mean, that's how much grunge has, influenced you. Yeah,
massively. I mean, how can you go past Kurt Cobain as a singer-songwriter, as a musical figure? I mean, what the man did, not just for grunge, but for the whole popular music scene, is extraordinary. And I think his voice, the rawness of it, is something else. And same with Tyler Childers, the honesty with which he sings and the subject matter that he sings about. There's a depth there and there's a power there that I just think is amazing. And I'd love to partner with someone like that.
Wow. I mean, You're in the city. Would you love to live out in the country again?
Look, I think I'm always a country girl at heart, but I don't know how much you or your listeners know about Melbourne, but we're a pretty cosmopolitan city down here. There's a lot of life, there's a lot of art, there's a lot of different influences, and that's something that I'm really enjoying at this time in my life. So not tomorrow or the next day, but there's no doubt I'll end up back in the country at some point.
Yeah. Well, the brand new single, Burn Your House Down, just came out like a week ago. It says it raises a fist and a middle finger to a lot of things. Tell us about this song, Allie.
Well, I think you can hear the grunge influence in this one when your listeners hear it. But I think, when I wrote this, it was in the middle of the pandemic. It was in the middle of COVID, and I know everyone's experience of that was really different. And in the States, you would have had a different experience. But over here, we were probably rightly from a health perspective, but we were being restricted. We couldn't do things. People were losing their jobs. Hospitals were closing, schools were closing, and it just felt like everyone was being really constricted. And I had a lot of friends and family who were trying to make a living through things like farming, through incomes that required people getting out and about, and they were just slowly losing their land and losing their finances to banks and these other institutions. And it felt so wrong at the time. And, I just got massively frustrated about it and sat down one day and this song just kind of wrote itself. It's the quickest I've ever written a song, and it was just, to me, it was everything that was wrong with the world at that point in time. And so it is about anarchy. It is about fighting back. It is about not giving in when people turn. And to me, that was really the flavour of what was happening to so many people that I cared about at that time, and it still is happening. The effects of it.
Yeah, we're losing you again. How is Australia back, you think, 100%?
Oh, not 100%, no. I think you're still feeling the impacts from a health perspective, from a cultural perspective. Look, the music scene's alive and well here in Melbourne. Is it everywhere in Australia? I don't know. Did we lose a lot of great artists during COVID? Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
But I think, look, I'd say it's 70% there, which, 3 years after is not too bad, I don't think.
I'm a big, have you heard of King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard?
I have.
I love those guys. I've seen them a couple times here in the States.
Yeah, they're awesome.
They're pretty crazy. And I mean, talk about putting out music. They put out like 5 albums a year. It's insane.
Oh, so prolific. So prolific.
I mean, those guys are incredible. So the album, though, I think, what are we looking at? October? We're going to release it?
Yeah, we're hoping October, November, but I'm determined not to rush. As I said, we've got another single to go. Then we've got to find the right time, which is, a sweet spot between the end of the year and Christmas. And so I think October, November is the plan. But if things change, if we get held up, if we get momentum with other singles, then we're just going to play it by ear. But at this point in time, you can lock it in for October, November.
Yeah, October, November. Be on the lookout for The Drink is Hard Times. Go and check her out. She's at alliejean.com.au. She's on Facebook, Instagram, X. Go to Spotify. You can hear the 4 singles that are out now. Burn Your Big House Down is also out now. The Drink is for Hard Times. Is that a saying in Australia? Where'd you get this? I love that title.
Oh, it's not a saying, I don't think, until we came up with it. But it just seemed so appropriate at the time that we were writing, and it's kind of like that relief you feel at the end of a long day after something really difficult, and just sitting back and having a drink. So, yeah, it's one of the tracks on the album that it'll come out. It's right in smack bang in the middle of the album, and it'll come out when the album does. But it's always sounded like a title track, and with a title like that, it was hard to go past. So then it became the title of the album.
Yeah, no, it's great. What's your favorite drink?
Oh, look, it's so hard to go past a gin and tonic, isn't it?
You can't beat a good gin and tonic, especially
exactly.
At the end of the day.
Yeah, that's what I reckon.
Man, so go and check her out. Go and follow her. Big things coming from Allie Jean. Allie, thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Here's Burn Your Big House Down. It's Allie Jean. KIX 96.5.